Hi everyone, welcome to our first day in class and welcome to the first day of Adobe Premiere Pro class also. And I hope you have your pen and papers with you so you can take notes. And at the same time, I believe by now you should have Adobe Premiere Pro installed on your computer. And if you don't have it installed yet, or maybe you don't have a computer to take this class, there's no problem about that. All you just have to do is be connected on Telegram as you have done right now, and um, you will be able to watch exactly what I'm doing from over here. And to also bring to your notice, um, I'm going to be using a MacBook Pro to take this class. So that means that means some shortcuts sorry, that means some shortcuts that you might have on a Windows computer might not be exactly the same thing that I'll be using over here. But wherever there's any difference of keyboard shortcuts, I'll definitely bring it to your notice. Also, I do hope you have a little knowledge of how the computer works, either a MacBook Pro or Windows, as you might have at your hand. So, and if you have a MacBook Pro to take this class, that's very good. So, all the shortcuts are the same, but wherever there's a difference in shortcuts, I'll bring it to your notice, like I said. All right, right now I'm going to launch Adobe Premiere Pro. So, you can also do the same on your computer and let's see how it looks. So, right now, this is Adobe Premiere Pro opening. But if you notice, I'm running Adobe Premiere Pro 2020. So it doesn't matter if it is 2020, 2018, 2019, or 2021. But all you have to do is make sure the Adobe Premiere Pro you have installed on your computer is up to date. And there are just little difference in the features and how it works. I mean, the different years that you might have installed on your computer. So just watch along, and if there's anything you notice that is different in the version you installed, you can post in the Telegram group and I'll be able to explain to you what it does and if it is necessary or important that you really know what the function or the feature is all about. So right now, Adobe Premiere Pro is opened, and this is the first screen you will see if you launch Adobe Premiere Pro. On this screen right here, you'll be able to create new projects and then open recent projects. Now, if you ask me what's a project could be anything like, working on a house project, working on a movie project, and, project could be anything. But in this case of Adobe Premiere Pro, whenever you are going to have anything doing in Adobe Premiere Pro, you call it a project. So whatever video editing you are going to have in Adobe Premiere Pro, it's a project. So that's why we want to open a new project or a recent project. So the reason why you use this button, which is open project button, is when you already have a project you've been working on at the recent time and you want to resume back on that project. And if you don't already have a recent project you are working on, that means you want to use the new project button. And the new project button will create a fresh project for you. Now, before we go to creating a new project, pay attention to the menu at the top of the screen. So if you notice from here, you have Premiere Pro, and under Premiere Pro, there are options there are menus that you can select, and you see file, you also see edit, clip, sequence, markers, graphics, view, window, and help. So all of this menu at the top here will treat them one after the other. But to start with, first thing you are going to notice is about Premiere Pro. And this about Premiere Pro is just some information about what the version of Premiere Pro you run. and some little details from the manufacturers of Adobe Premiere Pro. So once you are done reading and you've seen the version of the Adobe Premiere Pro you are running, just click on the information box here and it disappears. Then again, if you notice there's a preference menu. This preference menu, we are going to take a look at it at a later time in this class. But for now, don't worry about what preferences are. Then again, you see a keyboard shortcut. We are going to talk about keyboard shortcuts later. So right now, what you should do now is create a new project. Now, how do you create a new project? Click on this button here. There's another method of creating a new project, which is going to File, then you see New, and then you can click on Project. Or if you are not creating a new project, which is this Open Project, so you can also go to File, Menu, and then you see Open Project. So every other menu you see right here, either the active ones or the inactive ones, the grayed out menus are inactive. So either the active or inactive menu, for now, don't worry about it. And to your surprise, I'll tell you that almost all of this menu you're looking at here, you might not need them. If you know what you are doing, you might just go one after the other to check them out. That's if it becomes active. Active in the sense that the color will change to this white text you can see over here. All right. So the next thing we are going to do now is create a new project by clicking on New, File, New, then Project. Now creating a new project brings out this dialog box saying New Project. So on this screen right here, there are just little things that you have to put into place, and you find name, location within this box. These are the two most important things you have to do right here. The other ones you can see, which is general, scratch disk, ingest settings, are not too important. The reason why they are not too important is because they have a default settings that you don't have to worry about. So if you go to scratch disk, this is what you see. All these are default settings that will not affect your project. And right here, you also see ingest settings. They don't affect your project. They are by default created for you. So if you know what you are doing, you can adjust the settings you see here in general, scratch disk, and ingest settings. But the two most important things you have to pay attention to right now is name and location. So what does it mean? Name means the name of your project, because the next time you want to continue working on your project, you have to locate it by this name. Or if there's anything that would make you want to check out your project again, you need this name to check the project or to find it on your laptop or your computer. Now, we are going to give our project a name. In this case, I'm going to give the project my own desired name. You can give it a name you want, any name you feel you want to give your project. So I'll give it a name from here, which is intro to Adobe Premiere Pro. Then it is also important that you set the location where your project will be saved. In this case, I've already created a folder on the desktop, IMA September class. So within IMA September class, I have some other folders that I have created in there. So now I'm going to change the location of where Adobe Premiere Pro is saved by clicking on this button called Browse. Now, by default, look at this. The default location you have is Users, Tweets, which is my computer name, Documents, Adobe Premiere Pro 14.0. So if at any point in time you created a project, at any point in time you create a project and the project is saved without creating a location to save it. This is by default where you will find it. And on your system, on your computer, you should pay attention to this name here. It would bear the name of your computer. So you use as the name of your computer, Documents, Adobe Premiere Pro 14.0. This 14.0 is the version of Adobe Premiere Pro like I showed you under About. So that's the reason why you have 14.0 here. So the version of the Adobe Premiere Pro you have running would be displayed here. So when you go to Documents on your computer, you will find the project you mistakenly saved or created without creating a location for it. So in this case, we are going to save our project in a location I've already created, and that location is on desktop, and this is it over here. So in IMA September class, you will find a folder to save the project you are about creating. In this case, IMA September class Adobe Premiere Pro. That's where I want to save the project. So when you get to the folder you want to save, just select the folder and then click choose. Then the location will change. As you can see here, it has changed to desktop IMA September class Adobe Premiere Pro. Then next thing, I'll click OK. Alright, our new project is now created in Adobe Premiere Pro. So the first thing you have to do now is set up the interface, create a workspace. So a workspace is where you do your video editing, but in common, this is the interface. This is what Adobe Premiere Pro looks like before you create a workspace where you start working. Now, by default, if you look up here, you notice names of items that are created here. These are default workspaces that Adobe has created for you, and it depends on the one you would like to choose. You can also create your own custom workspace. That's exactly what I did to create the VMF you can see here. So by default, this is what you see: learning, assembly, editing, color, effects, audio, graphics, libraries. So I'll show you later how to create your own custom workspace. But meanwhile, I would advise that before you start working on any project, try to choose editing as your workspace. It will give you the best interface to work or to edit your work. Now, on this interface, like I told you earlier, I said you see panels. Each of the rectangular boxes you see here are panels. They are called panels, and each panel has a name. So this program monitor, this source monitor, this project monitor, and this is your timeline. Then this is tools. Now, there are some panels that you see over here that you don't need. So I'll show you how to remove panels you don't need and how to add panels that you need to work on your project. So one of the things you have to do to remove a panel you don't need, I'll tell you the important panels that you need to work on your project. But one of the ways to remove the panels that you don't need, if you look in this blue box you're looking at, the blue rectangle or the blue line you're looking at here shows you the panel that you have active at the moment. So by the time we start working, you know the reason why this blue line is important, why you should always make sure you see it before you do anything or before you work on anything. If you click on any of these boxes, these panels too, you see the blue box would be available. Now, while we are in this project panel, the box within here, you notice there's another panel, and if you also notice there are still some more panels. All of these panels you're looking at, we don't need them. So how do you remove a panel you don't need? So you look at these three dashes in front of each of the names of the panels. Once you click on that three dashes, you see menus that will pop out, and in those menus you see close menu. Whenever I'm not talking about some settings or buttons or some other things that you might see in Adobe Premiere Pro, that means we don't need them now, or you might not even need them at all through whatever video editing you are going to be working on. So right now, what we need now is close panel. So once you hit close panel, it will remove the panel from within the box that we have here. So there we go. Now I'll do the same thing for all of the panels you have here except for project panel. Now we have project panel left, and if you notice, project panel now has a name. Project panel now bears the name of our project, which you can see here. So this is Intro to Adobe Premiere Pro. That's the name given to our project panel. And lest I forget, once you have created your project, your interface will carry this link you can see over here, the location name you can see over here, which we saw earlier while we were creating our project. So you'll see the name of the project you have created here too. Now, if you have removed the panel you don't want, sorry, I mean, if you have removed the panel you want, all you need to do is go to Window. Then you see workspaces, maximize frame, and so on and so forth. But meanwhile, there's a panel I removed purposely, but we need it. We don't need it now, but we need it while we are editing, and that's Effects panel. So once you come to Window, then you come a little bit down here, you see all of the panels that you might need or you might not need. So the ones that you have active or the ones that you have opened will be checked marked on the left side here. The ones that you've removed would not have the check mark. So unlike the effects, we need it. So we need to return the effects panel back to its position. So what I'll do now is click effect. Then you can see it's back. So let's keep this open. Then coming over here too, unlike metadata, we don't need it. So I'm removing metadata, audio clip mixer, we don't need it for now. So our project interface is now clean. We have source monitor, we have effect controls, we have program monitor, we have project timeline and our tools. So the next thing we are going to do now is we want to import media. So to import media, there are several ways of importing media into Adobe Premiere Pro. One after the other, I'm going to show you the methods to import media into Adobe Premiere Pro. One of it you will see down here within project panel, and which is import media to start. So this page is showing you or is telling you that you can import your media from here. But meanwhile, the reason why you would not have to use this all the time, I'll show you very soon. So the other method you can use to import media is go to File, then you'll see Import. And the shortcut for importing media is Command I on MacBook. Then you can use Control I on your Windows laptop. So once you hit Import, it will import your media into Adobe Premiere Pro. So if you are not importing through File, then you import by either right clicking over here and click Import. So if you double click within the space that says Import Media to start, the dialog box here will pop out and you'll be able to select the media that you want to import into Adobe Premiere Pro. So in this case, I'll go to Desktop, IMA September class, Adobe Premiere Pro, and then I'll import from videos, photos, and audios. So there are also few methods of importing. You can import by folder. You can import all of your folder into Adobe Premiere Pro, or if you like, you can select the file you wish to import into Adobe Premiere Pro and import just the file. Or if it's the audio you want to import all of the folder if that's what you want, or import just the file into Adobe Premiere Pro. So in this case, I'm going to select all of the folders audios, photos, and videos, and import into Adobe Premiere Pro. There we go. All right. So now we have our media folders imported into Adobe Premiere Pro. And if you are not importing folders, like I told you, you can also import just a single file. So if you come to File, I told you you can import your media from here, or you can import from File. So let's import from File this time. If you want to import file, you can also double click or right click within here. And if you notice, you can't find that text again that says import media to start. So if you don't see it again, it doesn't mean you can still double click here to import your folder or files, or you can right click to import. But meanwhile, let's come on that file menu and then click on import to import a file. So in this case, let's say we are importing a file and not a folder. So it's still the same thing. So let's just choose a file and then import. So this is what it looks like after it's imported. So the next thing you want to see now is how to create a sequence. So creating a sequence means you want to bring your files, your media files, to a place where you'll be able to working on it in terms of editing, cutting, and so on and so forth. So this is where your sequence is. This is the panel that holds your sequence. So because we don't already have a sequence set up, it's telling us to drop media here to create sequence. So there are various methods of creating sequence. It's either you drag a media, either video, audio, or photo, down here in this panel to create your sequence automatically. But meanwhile, if you do that, you have to manually set up your sequence settings. But if you are not dragging a media directly into the timeline panel, then it means you want to create your sequence by coming over to File, New, then Sequence. So either ways, if you click on File, New, Sequence, this is what you will see. Now, there are a lot to talk about in this new sequence settings that is popped out. But meanwhile, before we get there, let me show you the other method where you can also create your sequence quickly. So it says drop media here to create sequence. So what it's saying basically is you drag your file, your media file, either video, audio, or picture, whatever you want to edit. You click and then you drag down here. Then your sequence will be automatically created. In this case, if there's anything wrong with the sequence you have created, that means you have to adjust the settings manually, because the settings is now auto set for you. So if you are not doing what we just did now, you want to create the sequence first before you drag the media file into the timeline, then that means we are doing it the other way. So if you are not automatically creating the sequence by dragging your media file into the timeline panel, then it means you have to come under File, New, then select Sequence. So this way you can create the settings for your sequence, your timeline sequence. So once you hit Sequence, the settings dialog box will pop out. And now if you notice carefully that you already have presets that are created for you based on the device that you used to record your video. So in any case, whatever device you use to record your video, it doesn't matter if you don't see them in the list that you have here. All you just have to do is select DVPAL over here. So once you click the down arrow, you see standard 32 kilohertz, standard 48 kilohertz, widescreen 32 kilohertz, and widescreen 48 kilohertz. So now, the best default settings to choose at this point is standard 48 kHz. over here. So once you select this 48 kHz, um, you will notice that the general settings, the information displayed here will change. Now, if you've not noticed that before, let's click on something different. Once you click on HDV1080p24, notice the settings changed also. Now, this is not the settings really, but meanwhile, the information about the settings you've chosen, that's what will be displayed here. So now we'll go back to DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz. Now, the information you can see on this screen right now is telling you the default settings that was created using this DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz. You don't need to understand what all of them is right now, but just few of the information displayed here, you see what it is. Now, this DVPAL that you have chosen here is not, in many cases, it's not what you'll be using to edit your video on the sequence timeline. That's not what you are going to be using. But the reason why you have to choose it is we already assumed the settings you want is not available. In many cases, even if your settings is available or not, just choose DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz, because by the time you want to start working, I'll show you how to change it to the exact settings that will work for the video you want to edit. But briefly, let me quickly show you how to adjust your settings. That's in the case you're already a professional and you want to, work around your settings. There are some few things you want to change. But if you don't know about these settings, don't bother about them. All you just have to do is come to sequence presets here. Then choose DVPAL by hitting this arrow here. Then the next thing is select standard 48 kilohertz. Change the name of your settings. In this case, we'll give us, change the name of your sequence. So in this case, we'll give our sequence a name like intro, just intro. It depends on the name you want to give your sequence. Just give it any name you want. So after changing the name, then hit OK. But before we hit the OK button, let me quickly show you something. Once you've selected DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz, then you can come over to settings. That's if you know what you are doing. So the settings you chose here, standard DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz, this is what the presets that produce that DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz. This is the settings that produced it. Now, this is where the 48 kilohertz is coming from, sample rate. So a kilo, as you all know, is 1000. That's why it's splitted here, or it's converted. So 48,000 hertz is what you can see here. Then the other DVPAL, this is the reason why you can see DVPAL there. Then one other thing that you have to pay close attention to is this 25 frames per second time code. This is where you can change it. So quickly, let me show you in case you want to change your settings, but I would advise that in any project you want to work on, once you are here, sequence presets, choose DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz, hit OK. But if there's any settings you want to change, come to settings, then go to editing mode, then click and then scroll back to the top and choose custom. If you don't choose custom, notice, for example, this time base, when you click on time base, the only thing you see is just what is already chosen or what is selected in time base. You won't be able to change anything. So if you really want to change anything, come to editing mode and then scroll back to the top and choose custom. So once you choose custom, you notice most of the settings you have here will be editable instantly. So for example, on like this time base, look at time base now. Once I click, you can see there are other settings in time base, but what you need is 25 frames per second. And in many cases, when you be editing, what you will need is 25 frames per second. Just leave it the way it is. Custom or no custom, leave everything the way it is. Come to sequence presets, then choose DVPAL 48 kilohertz. When we get to the point where we'll be selecting the exact settings for our sequence, I'll show you and I'll bring your attention to it. Now we've given our sequence the name of intro, then I'll hit OK. Now our sequence is created already. Now look, the timeline has been given a name, which is the intro we gave our sequence. Then the sequence also has a thumbnail here, and that thumbnail is also given the name sequence with this icon. Always pay attention to this icon. Whenever you create a sequence, this icon will be placed on top of the thumbnail that has the sequence thumbnail. You'll see this icon. Now, our folders and files are still available here within this project panel, but there's one more thing I need to show you, and that thing is you need to be able to organize your media. So organizing your media means you have to put your stuff, your files, media files into folders that you can create within here. So how do you do that? You need to first maximize this panel to be able to see all of the things you are doing. Now, maximizing this panel is not necessary, it's not compulsory. If you feel this little space is okay for you to work, but if you feel it's not okay for you to work, then you bring your mouse over. Once project panel is selected, just bring your mouse over to this empty space that you can see here, and then double click. How do you know the time to double click? Notice the mouse has changed. So once it changed to this icon you are looking at here right now, then you can double click. So once you double click, it will maximize. Then one other thing that you can do to maximize your panel is, let me return it back to normal. So one other thing you can do to maximize your panel, any of the panels that you are looking at here. So in case you feel the screen is too small and you want to make it big, all you just have to do is put your mouse on the panel you want to maximize. For example, project panel. Then there's a key on the keyboard, either on your MacBook or your Windows keyboard. There's a key that looks like the apostrophe that you can see on the screen right now. So once you hit that key, it will maximize your panel, any of the panels. And once you hit the key again, it will minimize, or it will return the panel back to its normal position. So next thing I want to show you, I said I want to show you the media, how to organize your media. So as you can see right now, we have folders named photos, videos, audios, and we have a video file that is here. We have a sequence that is also here, but it is always proper that you create folders within your project panel where you can put your media files. So in this case, we already have a folder called videos where we can put our video files. So all I'll just do now is drag this video file over here to the videos folder here, and then it will be kept in the folder. Now going back, you can hit this button here and you go back to the main folders. So now we need to put intro, this sequence thumbnail here, we need to put it in its folder. How do we do that? The reason why you have to do that is because you might have many sequences created, and before you know it, let's say you have like 50 sequences created, all of this space that you can see empty here will be filled up in no time, and you start looking for sequence within video files, within audio files, everything scattered within here. So all you have to do is make sure there's folders created for everything you have to do within this project panel. So how do you create this folder? To create the folder, you should come to this icon over here that says new bin. So once you hit new bin, it creates a new folder for you. Then you can rename the bin to the folder name you want. So in this case, I'll call it sequence. Then hit enter. So the sequence folder is created. So I'll drag intro sequence into sequence folder. So now my media is organized in the project panel. So I have the photos folder, videos folder, audios folder, and sequence folder. So now I'll return project panel back to its original position. So the next thing we are going to do is drag a video file to the timeline. So by going to videos folder, open, then drag a video file to the timeline. Now, the other time we were trying to create a sequence, I told you all you just have to do is select dvpal standard 48 kilohertz, because at a point in time we are going to select the best sequence settings for the video we want to edit. So that's what you can see right now, right here. So this dialog box is saying clip mismatch warning. So that warning, you will see it all the time. Now, what you are seeing here right now means the sequence settings we have here, the dvpal 48 kilohertz settings we have chosen initially, is different from the settings that this video was recorded with. So in this case, it's trying to tell us that, do we want to keep, in this case, it's telling us, are we going to keep that settings, the video settings that we have on this video file, or we want to use the sequence settings that we already have, which is the dvpal settings. So in this case, you should choose change sequence settings. So changing sequence settings will now take the sequence settings away from the dvpal we chose earlier and give our sequence the settings that we have on this video file that we dragged to the timeline here. So automatically, the sequence will now have exact settings with the video file that we want to edit. So remember, always ask, keep it checked, because if you don't do this, whenever you drag your video to the timeline, it will not ask you this. It will assume you always want that settings that we are choosing right now. So if you say keep existing settings, it means once always ask is unchecked, whenever you are dragging a video to the timeline, it will always follow the settings you choose now. But if you have always ask checked, then that means whenever you are dragging a video to the timeline, or whenever you are dragging a media file to the timeline, it will always ask you, what option do you want? Change sequence settings or keep existing settings? So now what we are doing now is I'm changing the sequence settings so that our sequence will have the same settings with our video. Now, this is what you can see, because our video is now having the same settings with our video. But in the case where you want to choose keep existing settings, let me show you what you will see. Now let's remove the video from the timeline. Then let's return the timeline back to what it is before we drag the video. Now that we have removed our timeline, remember we have a sequence that we can choose from. Let's go back, and we already created the sequence here. I've removed the sequence. So once I hit on this sequence thumbnail, our sequence will return. Then all I just have to do is so if you try to choose the other settings, this is what you will see. Now let's go back and drag our video again. Videos folder. Let's drag the video again, and this is what you will see. Now it's asking again, are we going to change sequence settings or keep existing settings? Let's choose keep existing settings. Now what you notice is the screen size. The screen size is not the exact frame size. It's not the exact frame size with the video we have here. How do you know that? Now look at the video we drag to the timeline. If you right click on this video we drag to the timeline, then you scroll down a bit to properties. What you see in the property settings is the info of the video that we drag to the timeline, and in the informations that you have here, you see image size, and that image size is the frame size of the video we drag to the timeline, which is 1088 by 612. Now, if you also go to your sequence properties, If you also go to your sequence properties, you see something different, which is the frame size, which is 720 by 576. That's the DV we selected while we were creating the sequence. So there are two different frame sizes. It will definitely affect the video you want to edit. So that's the reason why when you are bringing a video to your sequence, you should choose change sequence settings. So once you change sequence settings, it will take the settings you have on your video and match it with the one that the sequence will be created with, and the DV we created earlier will be discarded. The DV settings we created earlier will be discarded. The DV settings we created earlier will be discarded. So now let's follow the right thing to do and drag our video to the timeline by choosing the right settings. Change sequence settings. Now, as you can see, our video property says image size 1088 by 612. Then if you check on the sequence settings too, on the properties, you will see it's showing 1088 by 612 automatically because it has picked the settings on the video file. So now whatever you bring to the timeline would follow this frame size that we are working on right now. For those of you who have decided to drag your video directly to the timeline without going to File, New, Sequence to create a sequence settings, then you don't have to worry about what settings to choose and what not to choose. Don't worry about DVPAL standard 48 kilohertz. All you just have to do is drag your video directly to the timeline. Then all of the settings will be taken care of for you. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the class and I hope you really gain something new. By next week, we'll continue from where we stopped and you will learn more about how Adobe Premiere Pro works, how to edit videos on the timeline, and some other new things that you'll be seeing within Adobe Premiere Pro. So thank you for your time, and please, before you end the video, I will appreciate that you copy this code that you can see on the screen right now and keep it to yourself. For those people that attended the class today, this code is very, very important. Just keep it for now. It will be communicated to you how the code will be used. But for now, keep this code safely. Don't give it to another person. Thanks for attending the class today. God bless.